Hi, I'm Matt Walker, Director of Foundation Relations at the University of Memphis. Thank you for joining us for the economic impacts and benefits of the University of Memphis and its investments and research activities, a joint presentation of the University of Memphis's Office of Economic and Government Relations and the Office of Corporate and Foundation Relations. Joining us today is Ted Townsend, Chief Economic Development and Government Relations Officer for the University of Memphis. Ted is a proven leader in the economic and business development arena, has significant experience in developing public-private partnerships, and has extensive expertise in municipal, state, federal economic development funding programs. We welcome Ted today to provide insights and thoughts on the economic impact of the University of Memphis. Thank you for joining us, Ted.
Thanks very much, Matt. I appreciate it. Hello to everyone. We're really excited about being able to share the information that came out of our economic impact analysis report. Again, as Matt indicated, our office focuses on economic development and government relations at all levels of government, and we feel that those intertwine quite nicely because you can't have economic development without great, strong partnerships at all government levels, local, state, and federal. It's been a few years since the University of Memphis has looked at its economic impact for the region, the state, and the country. So it was time to do this. We have several major initiatives that we're pursuing right now to include the Carnegie R1 classification, which I'll talk about a little bit more. But in doing that, you need to know where you are now. You need to understand exactly what impact we have for the community. So I'll talk about how we went through the process of calculating that very impact. What you see on the screen here is the typical methodology that's used in looking at the direct impact, the indirect, and the induced. What we looked at with direct is the expenditures that are coming out of the university through its operations, research, and construction. The indirect, which is those types of vendor purchases that help make the university run on a daily basis. And the induced impact is the consumer spending in the local economy that's sourced directly to the employee wages that are generated from the university. All of that combined gets to the total impact, and that's the combined of all of those facets and spend ratios to an aggregate number. The university has demonstrated increased investments in economic output of approximately $572 million in 2020, which is up 9.5% from the prior year. And over the course of those 5 years, the university expenditures have directly contributed to $500 million to the local economy on an annualized basis. Additionally, over the same time period, the supplier purchases have contributed nearly $200 million annually, and the induced spending contributed between $240 and $300 million annually during the past 5 years. You add that up, combined, the university was responsible for nearly $5 billion in economic activity over the last several years. So let's look at the aggregate. The next slide shows the economic impact of the University of Memphis. And that essentially is showing you that we represent over 9,000 jobs, almost 10,000 jobs that are supported from the University of Memphis. The annual labor income that represents is $475.7 million. And again, all of that drives to the $1 billion annualized economic impact. What this report shows is that the University of Memphis is a stable and recurring economic driver for the community, from recurring operations resulting in that over $1 billion in economic impact to the 10,000 jobs supported, which equates to $2 billion in wages earned over the last 5 years. The U of M represents a highly diversified academic research institution producing wide-ranging and transformational growth from one of Tennessee's major economic nodes. So what's really important is talking about the economic value of education, more than just the operations, more than just the construction and the research. What we do on a daily basis is focused on student success, and the economic value of that education is tremendous. The report shows that with the U of M awarding nearly 4,500 degrees each year, including bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees, we're showing tremendous increased economic activity in the state. Of these graduating students, over 70% tend to stay in the Memphis area, and over 80% remain in Tennessee to live and work following graduation. The simple translation the university helps to add over 3,500 degree-holding individuals to the state's workforce every year. Tigers, we know, earn nearly 10% more than degrees from other area colleges, and advanced degrees earn 22% more. The bottom line that you see on this is that the 5-year average is 110 million new labor income dollars for the state of Tennessee through our graduating classes. I want to break apart with this next slide, talking about how the total economic impact was calculated. We talk about operations, we talk about construction projects, and we talk about research. So with this slide, looking at operations, you can see that we are a critical economic driver for the state. For every job at the U of M, 1.5 jobs are supported throughout the community. And for every dollar in direct economic activity sourced at the U of M, a total of $1.87 is spent through the local economy. In total, the University of Memphis supported between 381 and 475 million of local salaries and wages between the years 2016 and 2020 for that 5-year total of over $2 billion. In the next slide, you'll see the yield of capital invested from the University of Memphis. And these typically are comprised of the construction projects that are underway on our campus. Our capital investments, supported by the state of Tennessee and private fundraising, are modernizing and expanding the physical infrastructure necessary to provide the highest quality academic and research instruction for our students. With over 1,600 acres of dedicated space on our Memphis campuses and Lambeth at Jackson, the University of Memphis is ever developing the technical and innovative spaces indicative of a major urban research hub. With nearly 400 academic degrees and certificates offered by the U of M, we know that we are effectively competing globally as a top-tier, highly ranked institution. If you want to look at it this way, there is definitely a hard hat ripple. For every dollar directly invested in construction-related activities at the university, a total of $2.10 is generated as economic input. The next slide, you see the impact of research and our march to Carnegie R1 and how that will impact even further in the years to come. The university is focused on developing a diverse community of researchers engaged in pioneering work to develop creative ways to enhance the human experience. We have engaged in public-private partnerships to reduce the space between innovation and action and increase the relevance of the university's research efforts relative to the state's economic development and diversification goals. Talking about that ripple effect, research certainly has it. The effect of direct wages equates to 1.7 times during the 2020 year alone. Research efforts have accounted for $218.5 million in wages in the last 5 years. And for every research position at the U of M, that translates into 2 net new total positions in the Memphis area. Now, talking about our march to Carnegie R1, the next slide shows you what our peer-to-peer analysis revealed. Nationwide, there are 16 states and the District of Columbia that have exactly 2 research institutions in their location. Tennessee presently has 1 public R1 university, and that's the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, and Vanderbilt University, which is private. Within Tennessee's 8 surrounding border states, there are 21 R1 institutions and 25 R2 institutions, including the University of Memphis. The U of M ranked 6th amongst those regional R2s in 2018, and since these rankings were released, we have seen an increase in our R&D spending from a total of $49.7 million a year to $65.6 million, and it's forecasted to reach $77 million in 2020. What we understand is that by becoming a Carnegie R1 institution, we will compete not only regionally and nationally, but much more effectively globally as well. In this next slide, you'll see the ROI of R1. The incremental economic impacts are incredible. With further emphasis on STEM programs, graduate enrollment, and improving the university's grant award capture, the University of Memphis is well positioned to be the next R1 institution in the state of Tennessee. For every dollar the U of M spends in research funding, that translates to an additional $2.18 in the Memphis economy. That's a greater than 2-to-1 ratio. And as of 2018, the U of M ranks 39th among those R2 institutions. And so what we know is that with the research funding increasing by 70% in the last year, and the fact that R1 universities and their R&D expenditures are typically 10 times more than R2 universities, the demand clearly exists. Given our undergraduate field of study trends, the capacity for graduate STEM research lags nationally. We need to change that. A greater focus on STEM fields at all levels, bachelor's, graduate, and doctoral, will be key for the university to move into the ranks of Research One institutions, and most importantly, stay there. One of the really critical investments in making sure that we stay there is the recent support from the Tennessee State Legislature and the Governor's Office investing in our new $40 million STEM building, which we're calling the STEM Research and Classroom Building. The university expects, through the utilization of this new incredible space, that we'll see enrollment increases that are supporting these new STEM research fields. We expect a 12% annualized growth over the next 4 years, pushing our STEM enrollment from 1,700 to 2,500. By graduate count, the proposed facility would support growth in annual graduates of 64%, from roughly 320 annually to nearly 530. So basically, this new facility would more than double the STEM enrollment in 4 years and produce a 64% increase in the number of graduates annually. We wanted to take this opportunity to dissect the full economic impact report for you, pull out all of the salient points that we want you to understand, and the fact that the University of Memphis is an incredible economic driver for our state. If you would like to have a copy of this report, we ask you to visit the website, and there's a link on this last slide for you to see the full report. And if there are any other questions that you may have, please feel free to contact me in my office at any time. You can reach me at ted.townsend@memphis.edu, and we're happy to be able to get you more information about the economic impact. Thanks very much for your time.